Hi, my name is Ty Preiniger, and I'm a technology facilitator with Mesquite ISD, and we are going to continue the mapping of U.S. history using Google My Maps, and today we're talking about growth and expansion. So in order to get started, I would recommend you go to ushistory1to1.weebly.com to give an instruction sheet to share with your kids, and this is what it looks like. It just includes every single thing that we'll map and some specific instructions so that we make sure that our kids will meet our objective for this lesson. And then you'll also need to make your way to Google My Maps. If you have mapped with us before, you'll need to go to your Drive or My Maps to find your map that you've been working on. Add a layer titled Growth and Expansion. Make sure it's checked with the blue line here, and that means that you're ready to start adding to our map. So we left off with the Jefferson era, not the Jefferson layer. And we mapped Lewis and Clark's exploration of the Louisiana Purchase. And now with this map, we're going to fast forward to the War of 1812. We're not going to map specific things of it because really what our kids need to know are kind of the effects of it. So I want to use my marker tool and drop a marker in England, since that's who we fought with, and name it War of 1812. And I'm going to search for a picture that's actually the effects of 1812, and there were three major ones that our kids need to know. They also need to know the causes, but we're focusing on the effects. So increased patriotism, Native American resistance was weakened, and then for this lesson, we want to focus on U.S. manufacturing growing. Because if we look at our instruction sheet, it talks about how this war created the need for us to actually manufacture our own goods because we couldn't rely on England, who we were fighting with, to continue to trade with us. So I'm going to add that description to my marker. I'm going to use the paint bucket, the style tool, to turn it into a battle marker, and since it's England, we'll keep it red. So with us needing to manufacture our own goods, we are going to have to amp that up, amp production up in America. And it was perfect timing because the Industrial Revolution had started giving us inventions like the cotton gin and the reaper and these things in the South that could harvest more cotton, and we would need more textile mills and factories in the North to produce those goods for us. So the first thing that I want to, or the next thing that I want to map is just the invention of the cotton gin. So I'm going to use my marker tool and drop a marker in Mississippi, and let's just name it the invention of the cotton gin. And for my image, I want to go to YouTube and get a cotton gin video so you can understand how this invention worked and how it changed America. And actually on my website, we have a Google Slides activity that will take kids through how cotton is harvested and processed, how it was done back in the 1800s, and then how it's done now. And so we can see how the process has changed a little bit, but still the money-making aspects and trade aspects of it are virtually the same. So in the description, you might add what it is, what it did, who invented it, the year, and then you can add another picture to that. For my marker, I'm going to make it like a purple plant. Okay, so with so much cotton being produced in this area, and again, that Google Slides will share some other maps with you that show the cotton and slave density in this area, there became a need for more factories and textile mills up north. So one more famous one that I want to map is one in Lowell, Massachusetts. We can search for that, add it to our map. I'm going to remove that, and I want to change the name to Lowell Mills. And if you watch a certain episode on America's Story of Us, they have a great video clip on these girls, the mill girls, working for low wages, but really excited about that. And it talks about kind of the working conditions for those girls there in Massachusetts. So I'm going to take my description here and add it to my map. And in fact, we can do an image search for Lowell Mills, and you can get a good picture with women and young children amongst all the textile machines there. So there's actually a marker for a factory. I'm going to choose that one, and we'll make it red. So notice how that factory was located along a river. That's important to note, because once all of these goods are produced, they have to be able to be transported to where people will buy them, to markets. And so one thing that was instrumental in this was the Erie Canal being built. So I would like to map that. So the Erie Canal is going to basically connect the Atlantic Ocean and some rivers to the Great Lakes. So the place I want to start mapping it is in Troy, New York. So I just want to search for it. I'm not going to add it to my map, but I just want to keep a marker on it so I can see where it is. And for this, I'm going to use an outside map for help, because the Erie Canal is, actually it's on my worksheet. It's kind of tough to see on the satellite view. So I'm going to click on this and use this map for reference and just drag it out to the side here, so I can make sure that I hit all the major cities that it's in. So I want to use my line tool, and hopefully I can find it. We need to make our way to this small lake here in Oneida. And again, you can get really exact if you zoom in, but for time's sake, I'm just going to kind of guess. I know I need to go through Utica and through Rome to Lake Oneida, continue along here through the Finger Lakes, Syracuse, let's see, it's just south of Rochester, and I can kind of see Green Depression area to Buffalo, and then that's going to get me, let's see if I can move my map over, that's going to get me to Lake Erie. So if I hover over the last dot that I made, I get a pointer finger, that'll end my line. I'm going to call that the Erie Canal. I want to save it, and I want to make it a bold blue line. And I'm going to add a picture so you can kind of get an idea of what it looked like, right? A man-made waterway with goods being shipped down it. And so then what I want to do is I want to show just how much this helped this area with shipping, because right now it just looks like we have kind of a man-made river that stops right here in the middle of New York. But if we actually look closer, it starts, or it is connected to the Hudson River here in New York. So what I want to do is I'm going to use my line tool again, and I'm going to start my line here out in the bay or in the Atlantic Ocean. And I'm going to start tracing the Hudson River, right, where Sully landed his airplane there next to Manhattan. I'm going to follow the Hudson River north roughly. And that should get me to the town of Troy. So we're actually going upstream to Troy, and we'll meet up with the Erie Canal line that I drew. So I'm just going to trace over that. Just keep on pushing my mouse to move west. That gets me to Lake Erie, and now I want to zoom out. And now I want to continue my line through the Great Lakes because they're connected. Work my way through Lake Michigan. And then I'm going to jog over through Illinois. There's a river here, and that's going to connect us to the Mississippi River. So basically what I'm showing is that there was an all-water route that connected the Atlantic Ocean to the Gulf Coast. Basically, we kind of mapped that previously with the Western farmers showing how they needed to get their goods for market, and thus showing the need for us to purchase New Orleans or Louisiana ultimately. So I'm just going to name this shipping lane, and the instructions kind of give you some rough directions on where to go. But for my description, I'm going to write that this route west allowed for goods to be shipped further inland than ever before. And so with this influx of cotton and textiles and manufactured goods during this time, people were to, so many good things happened. The country got a whole lot smaller. They were more connected, and more money was ready to be made. So I'm going to save that, and let me go ahead and search for another picture, Erie Canal shipping. And you can see a modern day picture of what this looks like. So it's actually pretty big. It's hard for us here in Texas to kind of understand just what that's like. I'm going to change my line to teal. And then there you go. So huge, huge advantage for the U.S. and the manufacturing and the industry, the business up there in the north. Okay, then I want to shift gears and kind of talk about some compromises that were going to happen, that were going to start happening, because the North and South are going to kind of drift further apart because they don't have a whole lot in common. And slavery obviously is becoming a huge issue here in the South with the need for all those slaves with the high cotton production. And so as states were starting to enter into the Union, there was a question of how do we keep a balance of slave and free states in Congress? And so one compromise that was used to address that problem was the Missouri Compromise. So I want to add a bold line that kind of represents this. So actually they're going to use the 36 degrees north line here underneath Missouri to represent this. And I'm going to draw a quick line right there and call this the Missouri Compromise. And you can give more specifics about it. I'm going to make that a little bit bolder line. And let's add a picture that kind of gives us a better idea. So basically what this said is all states south of this line were going to be slave states, except for Missouri. Missouri was going to be a slave state too, but it was north of the line. But then part of the deal was Maine was wanting to become a state too. And so I want to take my marker tool and put a circular marker on Maine and add in the description if it became a free or a slave state, and it definitely became a free state. So as of 1820, there was a balance of free and slave states, and as the country gets bigger and bigger, they're going to struggle trying to keep that balance, and more compromises will be made. And then one other thing that I want to add to our map and zoom pretty much all the way out is at this time, James Monroe is going to write a doctrine. And what it's going to do is basically tell those in Europe that you are not to come west and colonize here in the Americas. So to map that, I want to use my line tool, and I'm just going to make kind of a zigzag line in the Atlantic Ocean. And I'm going to name it the Monroe Doctrine. And I want you to put a good definition that your teacher likes there. We're going to make it red, very over-exaggerated, bold red line. And then for a picture, I want you to find a good political cartoon. A lot of the times you'll see these on the STAR test, and it really kind of helps get that idea in your head about what this doctrine was all about. So basically, warning, what do you mean that the Americas are off limits? And that's exactly what we told Europe, that they are not to come over here and colonize in North or South America. So that's it for growth and expansion. Stay tuned for our next layer, and that's going to be events of the Jackson era. Thank you.